Jackson stared at Thalexa. She stood at his door, calm but alert. Her voice was quiet, almost afraid. "Hurry. I don't want them to see you," she whispered. Without asking questions, Jackson followed her into the dark hallway. 2 guards passed by, but Thalexa led him into a small side passage. It was narrow and curved downward, lit only by glowing vines growing along the walls. "Where are we going?" Jackson asked softly. "To a part of the palace the queen doesn't know I can enter." "Doesn't make sense? Isn't this her palace?" Thalexa didn't answer right away. After several turns and hidden doors, they reached a low room built from dark crystal. The ceiling sparkled like stars. In the center of the room was a table with an old flickering projector. She placed her hand on a glass panel and the projector lit up. A recording began to play. Jackson saw the queen in her throne room standing before several Virulon officials. They were speaking in low voices. "She's planning something," Thalexa said. "Keep watching." The recording showed Queen Zalari pointing to a star map. Her voice was cold. "We must make it look like the humans broke the peace," she said. "One explosion, one death. The people will beg for war." Jackson's stomach turned. The queen continued, "My daughter will host the human. If the explosion happens near them, the blame will be clear." The video stopped. The room was silent. Jackson slowly sat down. "So this whole thing, me living here, it's just part of her plan." Thalexa nodded. "She wants to use you. Maybe to get sympathy. Maybe to start war. I don't know." "Why are you showing me this?" he asked. "Aren't you her daughter?" Thalexa looked away. "She's not the mother I used to know. She's changed, cold, controlling. She doesn't care about peace or me." Jackson tried to think clearly. "We need to tell someone. The human embassy. The council on the space station." "No," Thalexa interrupted. "Can't leave the planet. Not now. The queen will stop you. Or worse." He stood up, pacing. "Then what do we do?" She stepped closer. "Help me find more proof." "Help me stop her." Jackson hesitated. This wasn't his mission. He wasn't a spy or a fighter. But if he did nothing, war might start in. He'd be the reason. Finally, he gave a short nod. "All right, I'll help." Thalexa looked at him, surprised. "You really mean that?" "Yeah," he said. "But we do this smart. Carefully." She gave a small smile. "Good, because we don't have much time." Over the next few days, they acted normal in public, but in private, they searched for clues. Thalexa led Jackson through hidden passages. The palace was full of secret rooms and old technology, most of it forgotten. They found scrolls, recordings, and messages between the queen and her council. They learned the queen was planning to attack a human outpost, a small science station near the border. She had already planted explosives and false evidence that pointed to human sabotage. "It'll happen in less than 2 weeks," Thalexa said one night, looking over a glowing map. "She used the explosion to rally our people. Say the humans betrayed the treaty." Jackson sat beside her, reading files. "We need to send this to the humans. Warn them." "I've tried," Thalexa said, shaking her head. "My messages are blocked. The queen controls all outgoing signals. Only her private network can reach outside the system." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Jackson said, "What about your old tutors? Friends in the city? Anyone you can trust?" "There's one," she said slowly. "My old guard, Commander Varen. He was loyal to my father. He might still be loyal to truth. Can we meet him if we're careful?" The next evening, they left the palace using a service tunnel. They wore dark cloaks and used cloaking devices to hide their energy signatures. The city of Varela Prime was beautiful at night. Its towers glowed with soft colors, and air cars flew silently overhead. But Jackson could feel the tension. Too many guards, too many cameras. They reached a quiet neighborhood near the military district. Thalexa led him to a simple home made from stone and crystal. A tall, strong Varillan male opened the door. His armor was old and worn, but his eyes were sharp. "Princess," he said, shocked. "You shouldn't be here." "I need your help, Varin," she said. "It's about my mother." Varin let them in quickly and locked the door inside. Jackson watched as Thalexa explained everything: the plan, the recording, the false evidence. Vayarn listened carefully. Then he looked at Jackson. And you believe her? Jackson nodded. I saw the recording. This isn't about loyalty. It's about truth. Vahan paced the room. If what you say is true, then the queen must be stopped. But it won't be. Easy. She has the entire council behind her. Not all of them, Thelixa said. Some are unsure, some are afraid. If we show the truth to the right people, maybe they'll speak out. I'll help you, Varen said at last. I'll send a signal to my old allies quietly. But if the queen finds out? He didn't finish the sentence. That night, Jackson couldn't sleep. He stood on a balcony outside his room, looking over the glowing city. He never thought he'd be part of something like this. He was just a translator sent to study culture and language, not war, not rebellion. Thelixa joined him, carrying 2 cups of warm drink. She handed him one. You did well today. Thanks, he said. But I still feel like I'm in over my head. You are, she said with a small smile. So am I. They stood together in silence for a while. Why did you really agree to help me, she asked. Jackson looked at her. Because peace matters. And because I think you're not like your mother. She looked down at her drink. I hope you're right. Days later, things changed. They were back in the palace, walking through a hidden hall, when a loud boom shook the floor. Alarms screamed. What was that? Jackson asked, heart racing. Thelexa's eyes went wide. No, it's too early. The explosion, someone acted early. They ran toward the noise. Smoke filled the upper halls. Guards shouted orders. Cracks split the walls. It's one of the queen's plans, Thelixa said. Someone triggered. It ahead of schedule? Maybe to speed up the attack. Maybe to cover something up. Jackson turned to her. We have to get out of here. If they find us, they'll think we caused this. Thelixa grabbed his hand. Come on, I know a way out. They ran. Jackson realized something terrifying. They were now fugitives in the most powerful palace in the galaxy. Smoke filled the air. Alarms blared across the palace walls. Cracks glowed along the floor. The walls trembled as another shockwave rumbled through the crystal structure. Jackson followed closely. Behind Princess Thelixa as they ran through the narrow passage. She led him down a tunnel lit only by pale lights that flickered with each tremor. This way, she shouted. Jackson's heart pounded. What do you mean, Roots? Thelixa. Didn't slow down? The palace is alive? Its lower levels grow deep under the city places the queen hasn't touched in years. Jackson almost stumbled as the floor shifted. Behind them, voices echoed, guards shouting orders, search drones buzzing through the air. They'll come. For us, he said. Your mother will say we caused the explosion. Thelixa stopped at a thick, vine-covered wall and pressed her hand against it. The wall pulsed, then opened like a flower. She already has. They rushed through, and the wall closed behind them. The tunnel twisted downward, then widened into a vast chamber. It was dark, silent, and filled with thick roots of glowing vines. The floor was soft. The air smelled damp, like earth and metal. We're safe here, for now, Thelixa said, catching her breath. Jackson looked around. Is this part of the palace? It was before the war. Before the queen took full control. These were healing chambers, hidden, protected. She knelt beside one root and whispered in her native tongue. The root pulsed gently, and a nearby wall opened. Inside was a small room, old and dusty. With cushions and a table carved from bone crystal, screens blinked to life. You've been here before? Jackson asked. Thelixa nodded. When I was young. My father brought me here when I was afraid of the queen. Jackson sat on the floor, breathing hard. Do you think your mother planned that explosion? Thelexa's eyes darkened. Yes. But someone triggered it early. She must have suspected. We were gathering evidence. She wanted to frame us before we could act. A soft sound came from the wall screen. A message appeared. Targets identified. Princess Thelixa and human male. Considered hostile. Capture or terminate. Jackson stared at it. They've declared us enemies. Thalixa clenched her fists. She's turned the Empire against her own daughter. After a short rest, Thalixa guided Jackson deeper underground. They moved through ancient tunnels, past forgotten doors, and overgrown chambers. Finally, they arrived at a huge underground hall, dimly lit by glowing vines. Inside were at least 20 aliens Verlans of all ages. Some wore light armor, others robes. They turned when Thalixa entered. Princess said, a tall male with a scar across his face. We heard the explosion. We feared the worst. I'm alive, she said, and I brought help. Jackson stepped forward awkwardly. Hi, Jackson Reeve, human translator. Accused criminal, apparently. Some chuckled. Others looked. Unsure? This is the hidden rebellion, Thalixa said to Jackson. Not many, but loyal. We want peace. We want truth. Want the Queen stopped. The scarred male stepped forward. I am Captain Valex, former commander of the Royal Guard. The Queen had me removed when I questioned her orders. He looked at Jackson. Do you believe in this cause, human? Jackson glanced at Thalixa, then back. I didn't come here to fight. But if the Queen wants to start war by lying about my people, I won't let her. Valex smiled. Then, you're welcome here. Over the next few days, Jackson worked with the rebels. He helped translate intercepted messages, organize files, and check security systems. He learned more about Virlan politics and how the Queen slowly took control of everything council, military, communications. Thalixa trained in combat halls. Jackson watched her spar with Valex and other rebels. She moved fast, her crystal blades slicing through air like lightning. She's a true warrior, Valex said to Jackson. But she fights with pain in her heart. Jackson nodded. She's lost a lot. Her mother, her home, her name. Valex put a hand on his shoulder. Help her carry that weight. One night, Thalixa and Jackson sat on a balcony overlooking the underground city. I thought you hated me when we first met, Jackson said. Thalixa chuckled softly. I did. You were loud, strange, smelled like metal. He laughed. Now, she looked at him now. I see a man who didn't run, who stood beside me when even my people turned away. They sat in silence for a while. Then Thalixa spoke. We have to act soon. My mother's preparing to activate the mine net. Jackson frowned. What's that? A control system. Hidden beneath the palace. Built during the war. She told the council it was destroyed, but it wasn't. It controls what, exactly? Thought. Emotion. It doesn't brainwash, but it makes citizens feel fear, rage. Enough to change their behavior. Enough to start a war. Jackson stood up. Then we have to stop it. Shut it down. She nodded. We will, but first we need to show the truth. To the people, to the council. We need to broadcast the recording. Can we? Lex approached, hearing the conversation. I know where we can. There's an old broadcast tower in the capital. Deeply guarded. But if we take a tiff, we connect to the network, we can show the Queen's lies to the entire empire. Jackson's heart beat faster. What's the plan? The next day, the rebellion moved Jackson Road in a hoverskiff with Thalixa, Valex, and 5 fighters. They traveled through sewage tunnels and hidden routes, finally reaching the edge of the capital. The tower stood above them, a tall, thin crystal spike, guarded by drones and elite soldiers. We get in, upload the message, and hold it long enough to transmit. Valex said. The rebels attacked fast, smoke grenades, silent weapons, energy. Shields. Thalixa led the way. She moved like wind, disabling drones, dodging laser fire. Jackson stayed near the back, holding the data crystal. Inside the tower, Jackson and 2 rebels reached the control room. He inserted the crystal. The screen lit up, showing the recording of the Queen, planning the false attack. Thalixa's voice came through the cum. Transmit now. Jackson hit the button. Across the empire on screens in markets, homes, and government halls, the truth was shown. The Queen's voice, her plan, her threat. The people gasped. Oh, some cried. Others shouted. The lie was broken. But the cost came quickly. Alarms blared. Reinforcements arrived. Royal guards poured into the tower. "We have to go," a rebel shouted. Jackson turned to run, but a shockwave knocked him down. A beam struck his shoulder-searing pain burned through him. He fell hard, vision blurring. "Jackson!" The Lexa shouted. She fought her way to him, grabbing his arm. Alexa and two others pushed back the guards. Blood and sparks filled the air. "Can you walk?" she asked. "Barely," he groaned. Alexa helped him up. "We need to run." "I won't lose you." Together, they escaped down a maintenance shaft. Guards chased them, but the rebels bought them time. At the bottom of the shaft, a stolen airskiff waited. They climbed in and flew away as the tower behind them exploded. That night, across Viralor Prime, the people marched. Some held signs, some broke military fences. Others demanded the queen resign. The council met in secret. For the first time, the queen's power shook in the underground rebel base. Healers treated Jackson's wound. The Lexa sat beside him, holding his hand. "You did it," she said softly. "You showed them the truth." He smiled weakly. "We did it. We risked everything. For me, for peace." He looked into her eyes. "I'd do it again." She held his hand tighter. "Good, because it's not over yet." The night air was cool as the small rebel airskiff sped away from the capital. Below them, the city's crystal spires glowed softly, bathed in colors like liquid light. But Jackson barely saw the beauty. His arm throbbed from the wound, and his mind raced with worry. "We can't stay here," the Lexa said quietly, eyes scanning the dark horizon. "The Queen's guards will hunt us everywhere." Jackson nodded. "What's our plan?" "We head for the Crystal Forest," she answered. "Deep in the wildlands outside the city. No sensors, no patrols. It's alive and dangerous, but it's our best chance to hide." Jackson swallowed hard. He had heard stories of the Crystal Forest, a vast jungle of giant glowing plants and creatures made of living crystal. Few dared to enter as they flew. Jackson looked over at the Lexa. She was tense, eyes sharp as a hawk's. But there was something else fear. Not for herself, but for him. "We'll rest there," she said. "And we'll send messages to the human fleet. Tell them the truth. Ask for help." Jackson smiled weakly. "You're braver than I am." She looked at him with a small smile. "We need each other." The airskiff touched down at the edge of the forest just before dawn. The sky was pale blue, and the trees shimmered with crystal leaves that sang softly in the wind. Jackson took a deep breath. The forest was both beautiful and strange. Light moved strangely through the branches, casting patterns that danced on. The ground they moved carefully, the Lexa leading. Every step echoed softly on the crystal floor. Suddenly a flash of light caught Jackson's eye. A small creature, glowing like a firefly, but shaped like a dragonfly, hovered nearby. Jackson smiled. "Looks like we're not alone here." The Lexa nodded. "The forest watches. It knows who's friend and who's foe." For days they lived in the forest's hidden groves. Jackson's wounds slowly healed thanks to healing crystals and Thelexis. Careful care. They talked more than before. Jackson shared stories of Earth, of humans and their strange habits. Thelexa told him of Viralon history, of peace and war, and of the queen she barely recognized as her mother. One evening, sitting beside a glowing stream, Jackson asked, "Why didn't you fight your mother before? Why wait so long?" Thelexa's face grew dark. "I was scared. My mother is powerful and I was alone. But when you came, I found strength." Jackson smiled. "We make a good team." She looked at him, eyes soft. "Yes, and maybe something more." Jackson's heart skipped. But the forest was not safe for long. One morning, scouts returned with urgent news. "The Queen's fleet has found us," Valak said grimly. "They're sending troops to surround the forest." Clensa clenched her fists. "They want to crush us before we can act." Jackson looked at the sky, where dark ships appeared like storm clouds. "Then we have to fight or run." "No," Thelexa said. "We need a plan." They gathered the rebels and held a council under the glowing trees. Valak spoke first. We can't beat the fleet head-on, but we can use the forest. To our advantage, the Queen's soldiers don't know its secrets. Thalexa nodded. We'll divide into small groups. Ambush patrols? Hit and run. Jackson listened carefully. I can help with communication. Send messages to human ships. Ask for backup. The rebels agreed. Hope returned. As the Queen's troops advanced, the rebels moved silently through. The forest, Jackson and Thalexa led a small group hiding behind giant crystal ferns. Suddenly, a squad of enemy soldiers marched through a clearing. Wait for my signal, Thalexa whispered. When the soldiers passed, the rebels sprang out, attacking with crystal blades and energy weapons. The battle was quick and fierce. Jackson fired a stun beam, disabling two soldiers. Keep moving, Thalexa shouted. The Queen's troops were pushed back, but they kept coming. One night, after a battle, Jackson and Thalexa rested by a campfire. The rebels were asleep nearby. Jackson looked at her. You've changed since we met? Alexa smiled. I hope for the better. You think the Queen will stop? Until she loses power? Thalexa said. But the people are waking up. They see the truth. Jackson reached for her hand. Suddenly a warning horn sounded. Ambush! Valak shouted. Enemy forces had surrounded their camp. The rebels scrambled to defend. Jackson grabbed his weapon, firing at the advancing soldiers. Thalexa fought beside him, her blades flashing in the moonlight. The battle was desperate. Rebels fell, but they fought hard. Finally, Valak shouted, Fall back! Regroup at the northern ridge. The rebels retreated through the forest. Guided by Thalexa's knowledge of the paths, Jackson stumbled, but kept going at the ridge. The rebels regrouped and held their ground. Days later, the help of the forest and human reinforcements arriving, the rebels launched a final attack on the palace. Jackson stood beside Thalexa as they prepared to face the Queen. Are you ready? He asked. She nodded. For peace. For the future. Together, they entered the Crystal Palace, ready to face the battle that would decide their fate. The Crystal Palace gleamed under a pale blue sky, silent but full of tension. Arm throbbed slightly, but his mind was sharp. He stood beside Princess Thalexa at the great entrance hall, ready to face Queen Zalari. Inside, the air was cool and still. The walls pulsed faintly, alive with energy. Guards lined the halls. But many looked uncertain. Some lowered their weapons as Thalexa passed. At the heart of the palace lay the control chamber. This was where the Queen kept the mind control device, the mind net that could enslave the Empire. The room was huge, glowing with soft crystal light. In the center stood Queen Zalari, tall and proud, her silver hair shining like a halo. You have caused much trouble, she said coldly. You betray your people, daughter. Thalexa stepped forward. Calm but strong, I betray no one. I only want peace. I want truth. Jackson stood behind her, feeling a mix of fear and hope. The Queen's eyes narrowed. You brought a human here. You will pay for your betrayal. She raised her hand, and energy crackled through the room. Jackson moved quickly, pulling a device from his belt, a human tech jammer. He activated it, sending a pulse that disrupted the mind net's signal. The Queen hissed in anger as the glow faded. Thalexa seized the moment. This device controls the minds of our people. It enslaves their will. It must be destroyed. Queen laughed. Foolish girl. You think you can destroy what your father built? Maybe not alone, Thalexa said. But with the people behind me, yes. Suddenly, voices echoed in the chamber. The palace speakers broadcasted the rebellions. Message: the recording of the Queen's secret plans, the proof of her lies. Guards lowered their weapons. Many looked confused, torn between loyalty and truth. The Queen's face darkened. She reached for a hidden weapon. Thalexa's blade flashed, slicing through the air. The Queen barely dodged. Jackson and Valak stepped forward to stop her. The fight was tense but brief. The Queen was overpowered, restrained by her own guards who now sided with the rebellion. Later, in the palace throne room, the Queen was under arrest. The council met in emergency session. Velixa stood before them, confident and clear. "My mother betrayed the Empire," she said. "She used fear to control us. She lied about peace. I ask you to support a new future, one built on truth and trust." The council members whispered and nodded. Jackson stood beside Velixa. "Humans want peace too," he said. "We can work together, build a better galaxy." The council voted. The queen was removed from power. Velixa became the acting ruler, charged with rebuilding the empire. Weeks passed. Peace talks resumed between humans and Varellans. Trade agreements were signed. Cultural exchanges began. Jackson was named the official human envoy to Varela Prime. One evening, the twin moons rose. Velixa invited Jackson to the palace garden. "You stayed," she said softly. "I promised." Jackson replied. They walked beneath glowing trees, talking of hope and future. Velixa smiled. "You were supposed to just live with me. I didn't expect you to help me change the galaxy." Jackson laughed. "Neither did I." She reached for his hand. Together, he said. The galaxy was vast and dangerous. But two unlikely friends, one human, one Virelon princess, had proven that trust and courage could change even the oldest wars, and for the first time, the stars seemed brighter. The stars outside the station shone like a sea of frozen diamonds. The Great Peace Summit was happening inside orbital station Veneranine, where representatives from over 12 galactic species had gathered. Tension was heavy in the air. This summit could end a long and bitter Cold War between Earth and the proud Varelian Empire. Corporal James Carter stood stiff in his uniform near the main hall entrance. His job was simple: guard duty, stay quiet, stay out of the way. He had no idea that today a single word from him would shake a princess and start something no one expected. James adjusted the strap on his shoulder rifle. The hall was wide and shining, with polished floors and glowing banners from each planet. Alien diplomats walked past him, tall and strange, some floating, others wearing shimmering suits. They rarely looked at him. Then she arrived, Princess Celia of the Varelian Empire entered with 2 guards behind her. Her skin was silver blue, glowing faintly under the lights. Her long hair floated like silk in low gravity. She wore a gown of crystal threads, and her eyes sharp cold. Glowing with intelligence, swept across the room like a queen scanning a battlefield. James blinked. He had never seen someone like her before. The Varelians were famous for being strict and serious. They didn't smile, they didn't joke, and they never, ever gave compliments. Beauty meant power. Emotions meant weakness. Princess Celia's eyes passed over James, paused, and then, surprisingly, she walked toward him. He straightened up quickly. Her voice was soft but firm. "You human soldier. Your name." "Corporal James Carter, Your Highness," he said, trying to remember how to speak with royalty. She tilted her head. "I have studied Earth language. Your accent is ... rugged. Fitting for a warrior." James gave a nervous smile. "Thanks, I guess." She looked him up and down, curious. "You are." "Not what I imagined. Earth soldiers are said to be loud and arrogant." James chuckled lightly. "We can be, but not all of us." And it happened, as she stood only a few feet away, looking right at him with those serious alien eyes. James tried to say something polite. He didn't plan it, the words just came out. "You look lovely, Your Highness." The room went silent. Her guards stiffened. A nearby alien diplomat turned his head sharply. James blinked, realizing what he had done. His heart dropped. Lovely. He had just told the Varelian princess she looked lovely. That kind of personal compliment was forbidden in her culture. He expected anger, maybe even punishment, but instead, Princess Celia's eyes widened. A faint glow touched her cheeks, just a hint of pink over blue. She blinked once, then again, then.
Ow.
She looked directly at him and said softly, "Say it again, human." James stared. "Pardon? Say it again?" That word, she whispered, her voice like starlight. He hesitated. I said lovely. Long pause. Her lips parted slightly. The glow on her cheeks deepened. I was not expecting that, she said. Our language has no word like that, only presentable or formally. Correct, but lovely sounds different. It means beautiful, James said, feeling his ears go red. But also kind, soft. Something that makes your heart slow down and your chest feel warm. The princess stood still, thinking about the word. Then she turned and walked away, saying nothing. James stood frozen, wondering if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his military career. Later that day, James was called into his commanding officer's room. Did you speak to the Varelian princess today? The officer asked, arms crossed. Yes, sir. Did you by any chance compliment her? James rubbed the back of his neck. Yes, sir, accidentally. The officer groaned. Well, congratulations, Carter. She just requested you to be her personal escort during the station tour tomorrow. Shh. James blinked. What? She insisted. Said she wants someone who speaks with honesty. And now I have to explain to the Varelian guards that you didn't seduce their royal heir. I didn't, James shouted. Did you call her lovely? Yes. Then in her culture, that's practically a proposal. James dropped into the chair behind him. The next day, James stood nervously outside the princess's private chambers aboard the station when the door slid open. Yash. She stepped out without her usual guards. Her eyes met his. You returned, she said. I'm a soldier. Orders are orders. I gave the order, she replied. I wanted to speak with you again. James tried to look calm, but his heart was pounding. They walked through the upper gardens of the space station, an artificial area filled with glowing trees, alien flowers, and floating lanterns. Most aliens used the gardens for formal events, not for walks. Princess Celia asked many questions. Why did you use the word lovely? Because that's what I saw. You were not afraid. I was terrified. She laughed soft and quick, as if she wasn't sure if she was allowed. No one ever called me lovely before, she said. Not even my mother. James looked at her, surprised. Why not? Because Varelians are not taught to value soft things. Beauty is for statues. Warmth is for machines. But your words, they made something move inside me. I wanted to understand it. She stopped walking and turned to him. Say it again. James looked into her eyes. Your lovely princess. This time, she did not blush. She smiled, back in the shadows. One of the Varelian guards watched them from behind a holographic wall. His eyes narrowed, and his hand hovered near the communicator on his wrist. The human was changing her, and not everyone wanted her to change.